Good morning, good people, man. This is a wonderful day, man, to show you that breaking chains to addiction is possible. Here at the Sober Living Project, Sober Talks Podcast. I have a special guest today, which I always have a special guest, but this guest right here is somebody that I just met that's been doing this walk of recovery for a while now. Also, y'all, we just want to show you that it's possible and it's real. I want to start off with the introduction of my guest. His name is Mr. Moore. But Mr. Moore, please introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are. How you doing? Thank you for coming too, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
I think I welcome the opportunity to spread the word about recovery every opportunity I get. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
And my name is Thomas Moore. I'm living long-term recovery. I started using probably even in my teens. But it never became pervasive until I reached adult life. And during that time, I was what was called a functional addict, which means that I could keep a job, I could keep a family and look normal like everybody else. But as everybody knows, it's a advanced and developing disease. And that's the one thing I like to always emphasize, that addiction is truly a disease. It's not a weakness in consciousness or decision making or anything like that. It's actually a disease. Just as people suffer from diabetes, hypertension, people are predisposed to addiction. And when you look at society as it is, there are all kind of things that kind of lead people into using. Sometimes it's just curiosity, sometimes it's peer pressure, sometimes it's just social norms where you see people going to celebrate with psychoactive substances. Psychoactive substance is anything that alters your brain chemistry and alters your state of being. So alcohol is including that, but alcohol is one of the more accepted forms of drugs, but it's no less harmful. In a lot of ways, alcohol, up until now, when they have a lot of these designer drugs that have come out, alcohol can be as damaging to the body as anything else. But we've learned to live with that and accept that because a lot of people are involved with that. But I always like to just talk about my story. For me, the urge to drink didn't come early on because my father suffered from alcoholism. He would do things like go to work. I can remember actively on Fridays, he would come home. He'd have a couple of albums up under his arm, a bottle in his back pocket. And when I came up, and we're talking about during the 50s and 60s, we had stereos. We didn't have all the equipment that you have now. We had what was called stereo hi-fi. So, and we had little 45 records that we used to play. And I would be in the house playing the little 45s, latest stuff, practicing dancing like everybody else. And he would come home and commandeer the stereo. He would tell me to get off, and he put his LPs on and lay there and just get drunk. I can remember wishing that he wouldn't, because in the neighborhood, everybody knew, he was my father, and sometimes he'd be drunk coming through the neighborhood. So there was a lot of shame in that. But the upside was that my house was also the house where all the kids could come, because my mother always welcomed the other children. She felt that if whatever you were doing, if you were at the house, she could see and intervene. So most of the kids came to our house. We went to outings together, to the beach, cookouts, stuff like that. So that shame that I felt was kind of minimized because everybody wanted to kind of be my friend. So I always promised myself, whatever I do, I wasn't going to become alcoholic.
If I may just add real
Sure.
quick, when you started talking about your dad, you glowed up a little bit. And that's just the same feeling I have for my father, but I just seen that, I caught that, and that was just a powerful thing, because you grew up a little bit, even though you said that it was a little bit shameful, but it didn't minimize, but just talking about dad, it just made you glow a little bit. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and I don't get to talk about him a lot, and this is the first time I really talked about him in a while. So my vision of him now and what happened is a lot different than it was during the time I come up, and I've learned to appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I promised myself I wouldn't be alcoholic. I would do better than he did. Truth of the matter is, I did far worse. Um, and well, when I first started using marijuana was becoming very, very prevalent. I had in my neighborhood, everybody was into sports, and a couple of guys in my neighborhood actually went on to play professional sports, basketball and football.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys who should have gone pro did not, because he got caught up in the drug use, and everybody he was everybody's idol in the neighborhood, and he had gone to North Carolina A&T, uh, and he got caught up and came back and brought it to the neighborhood, and that's when the entire neighborhood changed. So, and wanted to be like him, did all the things that he was doing. And for a long time, it was manageable, like weekends and parties. But then, it went from the weekends to during the week to, pretty much every day to move forward, because I really want to get to talk about, the results of all that activity.
We got time.
And anytime you have any questions, it's always easier for me to respond to questions than it is just kind of talking about myself.
I was just letting you get it off because
Yeah,
you look.
yeah.
You
So
done answered two of the questions already. So I'm like,
I just want to give everybody some context, because.
So what I do want to ask, you didn't already answer this, but we can go a little deeper into it. Who were you before the addiction?
Question again?
Who were you before the addiction?
I was a guy looking to be liked. I had all the trappings of someone that probably was successful. By that I mean I had really a good job. I started off with the post office and went from the post office to working with people, and yeah, I worked over at St. Eve's early on. That's when they were still with the feds. And I even got to my education through the job. There was an upper mobility program, and I got to go to American University. The job actually paid for my schooling. They paid for my books. They continued to give me my full salary. The only thing I had to do was maintain a C average, at least a C average, and I had to report to work for 6 hours a week. Those were my only requirements. Well, you would think that's kind of easy to do, but under the throes of addiction, I couldn't manage to get there 6 hours. I did maintain, surprisingly, a B average. And I found myself with people that came from different nationalities and had different economic standings. These were children of people that owned like the Hilton, and people that had professional baseball teams and stuff. So I wanted to kind of hang with them. My resources, because I had contacts and I had, a means of procuring drugs, I made inroads with them with that. But it got to the point to where I couldn't even do that fast enough, because I was using as much as I was getting. People, initially I had a good reputation, I would pay, but then being your own best customer, you you fall behind.
What all of the drugs were you using?
Heroin and cocaine were my two. I wouldn't do one without the other. People that were with me, I was the guy that always wanted to get everybody else on, so, and as long as I had people around, but as soon as it was gone, I didn't have any kind of comeback. And it took me a long time to get to a point to accept that I was only half partners with folks. I didn't really have any friends.
I see a lot of Even though you're my elder, I see a lot of similarities with us because like drinking was my thing and other drugs too, but drinking was my main priority at that point in
Mm-hmm.
time, right? But I'm like, if I got money, I want everybody to be drunk with me, to get drunk with me. I had a beer friend, I had liquor friend, good liquor
Mm-hmm.
friend, and cheap liquor friend. But I just wanted everybody to get drunk, so it was just kind of, and like we met, I want to say 2 times before this, or we talked on the phone too, but just to sit down and really have a conversation. But I see a lot of similarities, even though you're my elder. You know what I'm saying? But I just, it kind of hits different when you can hear it again and see. So another question, when did you were saying that you couldn't even maintain 6 hours of schooling.
Mm-hmm.
So is that when you realized that it was a problem? When did you realize that your drug usage became a problem for you?
I realized there's a problem even before I started school,
Okay.
but I was still able to maintain. I would be late for work and little stuff like that, but I was still holding things together. I even went so far as to get married, thinking that with the added responsibility, because at the time my girlfriend, who I later married and gave birth to my daughter, um, I felt that with that responsibility, I'd be able to strengthen my willpower and do all the things that I needed to do because, um, I wanted a child. My mother definitely. My mother told me one time that I was in my 30s before I had any children, and my mother told me. She said, "You don't have any children yet. I can't be here forever. I want some grandchildren." I said, "Well, Mom, when I get around to it, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But right now," she said, "No, you owe me grandchildren." And that stuck with me. And she happened to really adore my girlfriend at the time, and they really clicked. So she wanted me to marry. And when she got pregnant, then it was a closed deal. And my thinking was, unbeknownst to me, that responsibility doesn't remove you from the throes of addiction. Um, that would be a good solution. But as my addiction progressed, I fell short, even doing the things that a father should do.
Mm.
I, because I was always around people that had means, I would do stuff like use my checking account in fraudulent manner, start checking accounts, stuff like that, white collar crime. And because I looked the part, I didn't have any trouble. But all that did was just delay the inevitable, which when everything kind of came down and I got locked up.
So to piggyback on something you said, if correct me if I'm wrong, you thought of adding a responsibility to your lifestyle, which was your daughter, it would change the ways that you were moving.
That was my thinking.
I thought the same
I
way.
didn't I didn't know that I had a disease at the time. I felt that I was able to manage it. I just wasn't ready to manage it yet.
Okay.
Same kinds of thoughts most people have until they really discover that addiction is a disease and you have to treat it as a disease. Just as you have medications that you take if you have diabetes or hypertension, there is a remedy to address addiction, at least the physical, emotional, and spiritual part of it.
There it is.
You know, and you kind of started out with prayer. Um, it took me a long time to really get this thing. I had been, because while I had a job, I had insurance, I could go in and out of treatment programs. I used to say that I'm on tour, checking all the programs out. Um, and I did, I would go in, you know, cite my expectations and what I wanted. And when they put me on, I never forget, they put me on a psychiatric unit. And when I was looking around, there were people that were actually actively psychotic. And I told them that, man, I think y'all had me on the wrong unit. I said, I'm here for substance abuse. I'm not crazy. You know, y'all had me in the wrong place. And the doctor looked at me and said, you're in the right place. He told me you're in the right place. And so I did that for a while. I tried it, but what really my touchstone for the start of my recovery again was my desire really to really kind of care for my mom.
Okay, well, before we get there, right, I want two things. I want you to really elaborate, break down, because I can't tell that yet. You can tell that on your own, but I know what you do now and what you've been doing for years, and it's powerful, right? But because I have a saying, and this is my saying now, recovery to everybody is different. So I don't. My saying is I don't believe in addiction. Addiction is nothing but a word. We put the power to the word. If we take the power from that word and put it within its rightful owners, which is ourselves, we can beat addiction. And I do know for a fact that it takes us to help us. It starts with self first. When you were talking about God, I met God a long time ago, right? But I didn't really start to get an understanding of God until I was facing time for a crime that I didn't commit, and I could have been gone for 30 years. And I said, God, if you help me through this situation, I will change my way of thinking, my way of processing, my way of moving, and I will go out and help my people, because that's what we are anyway. We are servants to the people. So I wanted you to break down this disease, because you're saying addiction is a disease, which is true, and I can accept that more than just a person waking up and saying, hey, my name's Leonard Smith, I'm an addict. I would never do that again, because I'm not going to say what I used to be when I'm walking into something new. And I've been there, because this is like going backwards. So what are some of the methods that can help you cure this disease?
I'm glad that you asked me that, because addiction is as complex as any situation that humans have to actually encounter. 12-step program is a means of treating. There are drugs that MAT that can assist you with the physical urgings, but addiction affects you more than just in a physical realm. Definitely spiritually and emotionally. So when you look at it and you take all those pieces, it's not really sensible to think that if you just do one or the other, that you'll be okay. I'll put it like this. If you have a car and you have 4 tires, now if one of the tires go flat, you can still ride along on the flat. You can't travel as smoothly or as fast, but you can continue to move forward. If you have 2 flat tires, you can still do the same thing. If all the tires are flat, the car can still move, but we all know what that's like.
More damage.
Yeah, it's more damage to the vehicle. Not only that, but you're moving in a manner that other things are being neglected. And,
Come on,
and
Mr.
at
Moore.
some point, you're gonna have to come back and deal with it.
Yes, sir.
So what really got me, I told you, first of all, I really wanted to be there for my mom. I wanted her to be able to see me because she was getting sick. And my biggest fear was that I would be incarcerated and my mother dies and I had to go there like in handcuffs. A funeral with the handcuffs, because they generally would take you before everybody else come and stuff. I already was kind of absent from the rest of my family because while I was using, I didn't want anybody to see me because everybody had these expectations to the point that when there were other events happening, my family just stopped calling me. They stopped inviting me to stuff. And I stopped and asked one time, I said, why y'all don't invite me anymore? He said, because you never come. He said, everybody know that you're in the street and you're just not gonna come. So what did I do? I used that anger for an excuse just continue on and stop trying. But I was in after I hit an emotional bottom. I had gotten to a point to where drugs really weren't working, And I already told you part of the story that, when I got high, I want 2 or 3 people to go, so we can kind of go ahead and kick it, and I'm doing all this. I would get the drugs. Everybody else would still be high, and I wasn't. So I know it wasn't working for me. How could everybody else still be feeling and not feeling? So emotionally, I hit a bottom. Uh, I had an inheritance, and I took that money and blew it all up trying to feel something. So I was just exhausted. Um, I decided to go into treatment. I went into a program. First time I ever went into a shelter. And honestly, I see why people don't want to go to shelters. That changed my whole mindset about what I was going to do. I needed to get serious. So, and I went to this program, and part of it would require you to go to 12-step meetings. And I went into this meeting, and this guy was there, and he said something that really made sense to me. And he said that spiritual matters don't make intellectual sense. That was the first thing he said. Then I went to another meeting, and he said, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. All that made sense to me. So I kind of got with him. He in turn took a liking to me, and I was trying to ask him to be my sponsor, but I didn't really know how to approach it because everybody used to come to him and stuff, and I just didn't think that he would say yes. But he ended up just turning to me. He said, "Man, I'll be your sponsor." He already knew me. He took it away from me and said, "Yeah, so that means that you're going to do this, that, and the other." And that's what I did. And he happened to be a professor at a university. And he said, first thing you need to do is get back to school. So I went back to school, and I ended up getting my master's degree, and then actually started working towards my doctoral degree. But all of it kind of came out of a very fundamental thing, which is giving myself a chance. Giving myself a chance, not reflecting on all that I had done in the past. And with each new day, I put my best foot forward. I read a book called The Power of Now, and it says that, all we have is right now, because it's never yesterday and it's never tomorrow. All we have is right now. If you do what you need to do right here, right now, tomorrow will take care of itself.
Let me ask you this, and that's very powerful, everything you just said. What were some of your darkest moments through your addiction? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I have a lot of dark. Having a gun pointed at me, and it was fired. The guy next to me was shot. I wasn't. Being locked up and not really knowing what my outcome was going to be, because they had given me some kingpin charges. They said that they were going to try to impose a RICO Act because they thought I had a conspiracy ring. I told you I was doing stuff that with banks and stuff. So, and there was a group of people that I shared what I was doing, and they started doing it. So they had the same pattern. So it all led back to me. So that was really dark. There was a part of me that knew that I could do better, and I really wanted to. The fact I can remember, this was really dark. It may not sound like a whole lot, but for me, it was very telling. I can remember laying in the bed and waking up and hearing the birds start to chirp, and I would just get mad. The radio would be on, I hear people laughing and playing, I would get angry because I didn't like my life, I didn't like where things were going, and I was thinking that, you know what, you probably better off dead. Yeah, I think those for me, that was really, really dark because I've always been aspirational, wanting to do things. Felt that I had been given some talents and some skills that I really wasn't making use of. I was the guy in the oil joint talking about science and stuff. And
What I really admire about your situation, Mr. Moore, because throughout your time of usage, you've always seen yourself better than the things that you were using. And that just speaks volumes within itself. Even though so you saw it, even though you still chose to do that, but you still seen it. So I mean, that's just empowering for some of the viewers that's gonna view this, because through the whole time you seen something better. Now through those dark times that you did just explain to us, you shared with us, what was that time the out of one of them dark times, or if it was another one that you said, hey, the change happens now?
the change happened. I can remember it. My brother had a place over Mulberry Plaza, and I was staying over there. I didn't have bus fare. At the time, this was when DC General had Building 12, where they had the detox program over there. I didn't even have money to get on the bus. I walked from Mulberry Plaza over to DC General to get into treatment, and I had to. Then you had to be there early because they would only take so many people. Had people laying out all on the floor and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I went over there. I walked over there, and I was determined that I could do better. Let me say something to you about what you had said was powerful for me. What I know to be true is hopelessness and helplessness are killers. It wasn't until I actually felt some sense of hope that I could actually muster up enough strength to do all the rest of it. But I was feeling hopeless and helpless. So I I had to feed myself something different than what I was actually doing. I had to actually be taking some steps actively towards getting better. And that's when the sense of hope kind of came. And some other opportunities, with each step, enough other opportunities kind of presented themselves. And I continued to build on it. And then I developed this great big fear of falling back into it because I had done it so many times. Uh, in the fellowship they use a lot of acronyms, and fear is false events appearing real.
Mm.
That's one of the things that I had to recognize, that to have true faith is absolute knowing in spite of everything that I know mentally, that spiritually I can take that next step. So faith starts at the point where our intellect stops, and we have to step beyond that, beyond what we understand and know. That's what faith is, and I had to develop that. Faith has to be fed just like that's a spiritual feeling.
Right.
And it has to be fed just like you feed yourself physically with food. You have to feed yourself spiritually, various things, adages, their spiritual readings. I don't necessarily attest to any one particular dogma or type of religion, but I think that God speaks all languages. So it's man that kind of takes from that and put these categories in. But if God is omnipotent, then that means he has to care for all people. There's no way God could be God and discredit one group of people or only speak one language. So I don't try to get into a category to where, you have to practice this, you have to practice that. I think that if God is truly omnipotent and omnipresent, then he has to be in all things.
That's exactly where I am. I learned something when I was over the jail. It was from Reverend Battle. That's Pastor Keith Battle's father. He would come over to the jail and he would say, I don't have no religion, I have a relationship with God. And what I've seen is religion divides people. And it does. It's to my own eyes what I see. And I even got a lazy left one, but I can still see out of that one too. When you start putting categories on certain things, it separate people. Certain people don't want to deal with that person. Certain people don't want to deal with this person. But every person on this earth need God, no matter when they find out that they need him or when they do need him, and he's always there. So I really respect that. It's real tough because people try to get religion mixed up with that, but faith is one thing that I'm prone to, because it's walking into the evidence of things not seen, but you hoping for it. So I know, like when I came home, I had to have like 3 or 4 jobs. I was working. I was halfway house, going over there, cleaning up with Sergeant Battle, Project Empowerment. After that, I was from 9 at night to 3 in the morning. Then I had to get back up at 9 to 5 down Minnesota Avenue. Then I go back to the warehouse and I do it all over again. And I got out, started striping, working, and then I started busting tables at the cheesecake. I made my way, but I said if I stay busy doing something positive, I leave no room for negativity to sneak in. And one thing about this addiction piece, or substance abuse piece, because I was really on the substance abuse side. I abused it because I don't down anybody that use or drink. To each his own. Like alcohol is one of the most legalest things that you can ever eat, and it can tear you up on the inside, physically, emotionally, mentally, and all that. I just knew I had to come to a point that I knew it was not for me. If I end up in this paddy wagon, if I end up into a domestic violence dispute with my kid's mother because I want to choose alcohol, I'm belittling myself, belittling her, you know what I'm saying, putting on a demonstration in front of my children that they don't need to see. And I deal with that daily to this day, but even though I'm not drinking now, but everything that I caused back in that past still haunts me with my first set of children, their mother. And I can't even lie to you because you're like a mentor to me as well too. Anybody that's older than me that I can learn from, that I can pick their brain like you know what I'm saying? We're exchanging jewels right now. Iron sharpening iron. I had an incident last week where I'm like, man, all I wanted to have to do was like bring my daughter to this filming that's going on, the Daughters documentary. People should go check that out. That's about men being locked up, incarcerated, and they having a dance with their daughter, Angela.
Father and daughter.
Yep, Angela Patton put this together. Nice shout out to her, man. And Chad was the father coach. But anyway, now that it took 8 years for it to get out, it's on Netflix, and they're doing screenings. So I wanted to bring my daughter, the one that was supposed to be at the dance and wasn't there. She couldn't make it. And I cried at the end of that, but I still gave the brothers their props because it was good to see them with their daughters. And I said, even though my daughter wasn't here, she was in my heart. And it was good to see all you guys with your daughters. And y'all gonna be home one day. All you gotta do is pray. It don't matter what religion you in. Pray. The streets don't love us. Our children do, and they need us. So as I asked that question, she said, who's gonna be there? Insinuating about my wife, right? But I was getting my tooth cleaned and all that, right? So it was just gonna be me and my daughter at an intimate setting because I wanted my daughter there. I wanted everybody to see what I missed. I got told off. I got everything thrown at me in the kitchen drawer, and I said to myself, "Shit, I should take a drink." That's what I always did, though, Mr. Moore. I started off because it was fun to do. Then I started off making it my problem solver, but it would always make it worse. Now, especially after I come down, so I'm trying to always stay high. I wanted to drink. I wanted to die too at some points in time in my life. Like, what am I here for? What am I here for? But the fact that he kept us alive, we're here for a purpose. You being a black man that got his masters and went through all that, come on, man. You're a walking testimony. You're a walking pillar of what can be. You done broke them chains to addiction. And you're showing the people, you're dedicating your life to showing people like me, people that's going to view this, how to do it, and the processes to do it. Maybe they don't got to go through what Mr. Moore went through or Leonard Smith went through. Maybe they sitting right there now getting ready to snort one, drink one, and they're like, dang, they are talking some real stuff. Let me put this down. Let me call them. And prime example, if you need Mr. Moore number, you don't got no problem with me passing it out to you.
Not at all.
Because I would definitely send them your way. His way, but anyway, man, it's just. Yeah. But I had to look at myself. I had to Now I got there. I can analyze myself. Because we will inflict the pain on ourselves and look for other things to blame.
Yeah, as alcoholic or any kind of substance abuser, we have a lot of practice at letting go and giving up, throwing our hands up.
Yeah.
Breaking the chains is a good way of expressing what we're talking about. And to what you're saying about that situation, in the fellowship, they have they have 12-step program. When I say fellowship, I'm talking about the 12-step program. We have an allergy to alcohol. Whenever we drink, we break out in handcuffs.
Your dad is.
So, that's just one of the adages that are in there. They also say that pain is a great motivator. Mm-hmm. And it can motivate you either way. I think that until we get to a point to where we really, really are fully committed to doing what we need to do, then we always a suspect. The way I know now that there's no relapse in my future, 10 years ago, I needed a knee replacement. My sponsor, the same guy I told you about, funny enough, he needed a knee replacement also. And during his recovery, he actually stayed at the house. I talk about my mom. I actually had moved in and started caring for my mom. My mother was so grateful to him for assisting me. She insisted that he come to our house and do his recovery. So anyway, I ended up needing a knee replacement, and which I did. And they had to give me opiates for pain. I already told you heroin and cocaine were my drugs of choice. I can actively remember laying in bed. I only took the medication probably for 6 or 7 days, but I instantly recognized that my body was actually adapting and wakening up that monster that's in the cage. Mm. And I told the doctor then, I said, because I told him before I even got the surgery, that I was recovering, from opiate addiction. And, I wanted medications that probably, if he could find something that wasn't an opiate, I'd appreciate it. He said, well, the kind of pain you're gonna be in, you need to be on some opiates. So I went with that. But when I started feeling that morning sickness again, I alerted him and told him, look, I don't want this. If you have something else, please give me something else. And he found a topical, it's like a patch he put on. It didn't kill that much of the pain. But it killed enough for me to be able to manage it. And one of the things that I had gotten from my sponsor and his sponsor before him was that sometimes you have to learn to live with some pain. We can't go through life pain-free. And when you stop feeling things, then you're probably not living anymore. So we need to expect that, everything's not going to go away. And there's some bills in the mail that we're going to have to pay from our past.
Yes,
pay now, pay later, but pay you will. So be prepared for those and don't let them throw you, because they're going to come up. But you talk about the father and daughter thing. That was another moment that I had. My daughter was 8 years old. And I already told you that, when I was out there actively using, I wouldn't see anybody. But there were times where I would try to, see my daughter. My wife would call me. We weren't together. She would call me and tell me that she wants to see you. So I would always try to, hustle up enough money so we can go out, maybe go to the movies and all that other stuff. But a lot of times, man, that money that I was hustling up, I end up spending it on myself. And one particular time, I had called. We were supposed to be going out, and I went out, and again, I spent the money. So I had to call back to tell her that, well, I'm not going to be able to get there because, I don't have the money that I thought I was going to have. And she told me at 8 years old, she said, Dad, you don't need any money to take me out. I just want you to come here and help me with my homework. She took all my excuses away. And I'll never forget the way I felt that day. Those kind of touchstone moments that kind of occur, you tend to build on them, because one of the things about addiction is this: when you are actively in the throes, you have like this veil across your face. Each time you may try to get some treatment or get some help, you punch a little hole in that veil. And regardless of if you fail, you've already punched a hole in the veil. The next attempt, you punch. And pretty soon, if you hold anything in front of you, if you punch enough little holes in there, even though the veil is still there, you can still see what's on the other side. You're closer to your mark. So I tell people all the time, a failure is not necessarily a failure. It's a step in the right direction. Like Benjamin Franklin said when he just the light bulb. Everybody rode him because he failed so many times. And his response was, it's not that I failed, it was a 2,000 step process. So it's a process. Each time as you go along, it's a process. You're moving closer. You learn something, and you draw on the things that you learn and you move forward. Don't ever become discouraged. That's what I'm talking about, hopelessness and helplessness. You have to have some hope and sense of your ability to be able to get to the other side.
I said this joint turned into a therapeutic session, but I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, man. I seen on social media something that Malcolm X said, man. He said, man, a drunk Negro is a foolish one. A sober-minded one is a powerful one. You don't need to be nowhere dancing around all foolishness and trying to make something happen. He didn't say it in those exact words. I'll find a clip and send it to you later. But that basically what he was saying, because I know every time that I got under the influence, man, I began to act foolish. It started off cool, but then I started to want to be something that I was never supposed to be. I wanted to be a gorilla in the streets, or so-called, you know what I'm saying? So like, but now, how it hits so different now that I seen it, and I didn't also listen to some things that Dick Gregory said too. Very powerful man. I got the opportunity to meet his daughter, Ayanna Gregory, when I was doing healing circles when I first came home. But they talk so wise and with so much power, just as well as you, right? And I just jot down notes to each thing, because like now I'm in a time that history is really repeating itself, and it's repeating itself right in front of our eyes. My little cousin posted on my page the other day. He said, wow, I seen this in movies and all that, because right now we're protesting for the young brother that got shot and killed by the police in front of the McDonald's up the street. Mm-hmm. And as a people, as a whole, as a black man, as a black community, we have to bring unity within ourselves before we can make anybody else respect us, because we don't even respect ourselves. We're killing each other, 90 going north. And there was 2 black officers that actually killed that man. And more dialogue into the detail, one of them was going through something too. But drugs right now, the drugs and gun violence is killing, and violence period, not just gun violence. Drugs and gun violence is killing the population of the black species at an all-time high. And just to sit here and know that at one point in time in my life, I was on that opposing side. I thought killing somebody that looked like me was a badge, was like made me strong, made me that man. To now, I cry for brothers that get gunned down. I cry for babies that get killed, because whenever I was out there, never would I pull out a weapon if I seen a senior or a child or even a woman. But now it's just like it's no holds barred for anybody, so it hurts. And I say all that just to say that, like, this is why I do this. This is why I walk in my recovery and show people that they can too recover before it gets too late. I said and I told you about my kid's mother. I knew her brother. Through all the stuff that we went through, her brother always kept peace with us. I could say he was actually a friend. He got to the point that he was drinking so much the doctors told him if he don't drink, he'll have seizures. He had a seizure and died at the age of 28. And when he first seen me when I came home, when I first got my car, I was in the whole village, so I had to park on the street because you can't drive a whole village. But anyway, I was driving past the discount mark over there. Where that's at? You know, the discount mark by what off Nelly Halliburton in that area right there.
Okay.
Discount mark. So I see him. I say, hey, Day One. God rest my little man. So he said, all right, what's up? He said, you home? Put his arm. Let's go get a drink. I said, nah, bro, I don't drink no more, bro. He said, well, drop me off at the hotel. I said, I'll take you where you need to go at, but I don't drink no more. He said, man, that's good. That's good. That's good. And that's the last conversation that I had with the young man. But a touching thing that I wanted, like when I was sitting over the jail for those 3 years, you revisit a lot of things that happened in your mind that you did. I remember one time driving off of Wood Drive Road coming to get on Pennsylvania Avenue, but I stayed on the wrong side. This is when my baby mother was pregnant with my daughter, my son in the back, her daughter, her best friend and her brother. They arguing, but I'm drunk. I'm so drunk and I'm trying to concentrate, but I can't really concentrate. Shouldn't even be behind the wheel. God bless me because that time was no traffic coming the other way, but I just look at it now like, dang, what if someone would have came that way and hit me head on because I was in the wrong? I would have killed my children, And I never thought about that until that last time I got locked up. It's been so many things that I could have done to really crush my babies, but I didn't get to drinking. I wasn't arguing with their mother to do that to hurt them. I was trying to heal or numb that pain that you just broke down and said you grow from that pain. You got to use that pain for something else.
You have to, and you also have to purge. You have to purge a lot of that guilt and that shame. One of the ways that you can do it is just as you're doing now, talking about it, confess, confront, to contain.
Say it again, please, Ms. Moore.
Confess, confront, to contain. That's the way we kind of regurgitate it, because that stuff is in our DNA, these memories and stuff, and they manifest itself all kind of ways. One of the things I want to say, that whole thing with the police and the community, that's a whole nother session in and of itself. And I have some strong convictions about that. The short of it is that there are people that are going to have to die so others can live first. And secondly, everybody is not going to be able to master their own ego, which it requires before you can start talking about leading people or helping people. They have to master their own personal ego so that you aren't just all about promoting yourself. You have to be concerned about other people, egalitarian. When you look at African culture, when it was at its strongest, it was an egalitarian society. Everybody cares, and they promote their elders. There's something to be said about storytelling and passing knowledge on from one to another. So all these are ancient practices that we've gotten away from. Great, we have all kind of technology now, but we know for a fact that technology always supersedes our understanding and mastery of it. You can look at right now, we're talking about the ozone and gas emissions and stuff like that. Nobody thought about that as they were beginning to discover gas and use cars as opposed to horses and walking. Mm-hmm. So technology evolves much faster than we as humans do. We haven't even mastered ourselves. We have all this other stuff going on. Now, even the fact that you have this podcast as a means of communication, we have to instill some old practices in order for us to move forward. There's something about that. When you talk about grandma remedies and stuff, there's something to it. There's something to it. There's some old knowledge there that we have to embrace in order for us to kind of deal with some of this stuff. Even the pandemic. See, nature has a way of cleansing itself. You know, you can picture us as like the earth is like a big organism and have some kind of disease, which is us people. You know, the organism's trying to save itself, and it does what it has to do. Whatever's causing the pain, wherever the pain is, that's where the application goes, the medication goes. Sometimes it comes in terms of wildfires, floods, and all that other stuff. So that's a whole nother thing. But to go back to the addiction part of it and drug use, when you think about all the things we have to deal with during the course of a day, a week, and a lifetime, it's a lot. So we understand that the Sankofa bird, you look back to understand the future. We have to look back on some things in order to move forward. There is science now, because I kind of walk between two worlds. I recognize all the components that go into addiction, and I can help people. But my personal belief, as a recovering person, as a clinician, as a friend, I feel that everybody has their own answers inside. My job is to ask the right questions. And even if they don't have the answer right then, the conversation at some point in time, they had that aha moment. It kind of comes to them and they know what to do. So holding up the mirror for people is a big deal. Actually holding it and let them see it and not judging.
I got two things that I want to say, then we're going to start to bring it to a close, right?
Okay.
I wanted to say, when you said grandma remedies, right? And I understand that, right? I understand that to, like, just to be knowledgeable of what you're talking about. But actually feeling it, I don't. And why I say that, because you're talking to an individual that grew up without knowing his mother, grandmother. Only person he ever had was his daddy. That didn't make him, but was his daddy, and he still is his daddy to this day, but died when I was 18. So like, when you have somebody then also grew up in the foster kid, so then you were searching for love for so many years, right? And you never really found it. And you had somebody tell you at the age of 14, you're not even my real son. So that crushed me. So I called everybody mom, everybody dad. But I never really found that love at all. You know what I'm saying? So it probably was a way that, so I tried to love my children, and I wasn't showing them the right love at first, but I tried to love them unconditionally and give them what I never had, right? But then now to go into that point, so you got a lot of people that's moving around like that now. So that grandma remedy, it is strong. So like if people still have their grandmas living, or they grew up with their grandmas, that is great. But one thing about it, like, if you got a lot of people that's out here that's trying to find that spot to fit in, even with using. So it all ties to the same thing, because violence and addiction goes hand in hand. Now, as what I do now as being a OSOP community recovery coach and a peer recovery coach, is I show people that they're in charge. And I don't go to them talking to them. I'm talking at them. I say, hey, we in this together. That's how I've reached so many people, because a lot of people are so quick to judge, but there's only one judge. So who are you to judge me? I don't care if I'm drunk, stupid, laid over there in that corner. You can't judge me, but I know you will judge me more times than a judge will judge me. And the judge that's going to judge me is going to uplift me and move me to the right direction, as long as I want to walk that way, because he gives me free will. But people are so judgmental, they'll tear you down. But I've always lead with, hey, this is on you. And you can go in the room at 5 people, and 3 of them mean you wrong. Don't mean you no good, make you feel a certain type of way, but the other 2 ain't even open up their mouth. But you won't never get the other 2 opportunity, because you didn't let these 3 dictate what you do. But when you walk out, you're not walking out on them, you're walking out on yourself. So I tell them to use these treatment facilities if you go that route to better yourself. And anybody that sits in your face and say that they can help you, you put them to the test, or as we should say, street terminology, you call that bluff. You don't gotta be disrespectful. Mr. Moore, how can you help me better myself? And if Mr. Moore's not giving me the right tools that I need to better myself, even though now me knowing that the actual tool is myself, then maybe I need to talk to somebody else because it hits different. Now, leading up to this question, what does Mr. Moore do now? How do you help your community? What you got going on now?
I I've retired from 2 jobs. I worked for the Department of Behavioral Health for some years. I retired in 2019. I went back to another agency, and because of my age, I'm 74.
What?
I'm 74.
Okay.
So I left the second one and retired from there. So, but because of all the time that I lost using and running the streets, I make sense of my life and try to give back by various venues like this. I do it professionally. I work for a facility that actually takes people into treatment for addictions and mental health. That's the other part. Your mental health, when I went back to, and I told you they put me on a psychiatric unit, if you're going to receive help for this, you need to receive help not only for the substance use, but your physical health as well, and your psychiatric help, because your brain has been changed by when you're using psychoactive substances. And people think that just because you remove the person from whatever the substance is, that they're cured. No, there's damage that's been done. There was probably pre-existing situations that kind of led them to it, because these medications, you can look at some of the things, some of the choices people make as far as their substance of choice. People that are really depressed tend to use a lot of the psychedelics and uppers and stuff. They're trying to lift themselves up. People that that probably are bipolar tend to use a lot of alcohol, And of course, with the opiates now, you don't have any control over all the stuff that's out here. But, people are looking for that warm feeling, that hug. That's what they get. So it starts off with that. First the man takes the drug, then the drug takes the man.
There it is. Say that again, Mr. Moore.
I said, first the man takes the drug, then the drug takes the man. That's the way it goes. And there are all kind of adages that I can kind of go over, but we can't get it all in one setting. But I would definitely concede to coming in again, and we can talk about more of the specifics of what people can do to actually the quality of life. I'm just here as a living testimony that you can do something better, you can do something different. It's just a matter of taking the steps to do it. Get some help. You can't do it by yourself. Don't try to do it by yourself. Get you some help.
Wow, man. So you basically answered. I was gonna say, so what anything last you want to say? Because you just said get you some help. So that's breaking the chains to addiction. Breaking the chains to addiction is finding you some help, and that help that works for you. But it also starts with you. You gotta want to help. You can't just say I want to help but don't want to receive the help. Because you're never gonna get it. Any last things you want to add with
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is that there's no one road that leads to recovery. There are all sorts of roads. Just because one person did it a particular way does not limit that to being the only way. So, but definitely address it, get you some help, and it comes in all shapes and fashion. You may even get it by accident. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Mr. Moore, I thank you for taking the time out your day on a Sunday morning to come out and share and drop jewels with me and help me and also help the people. 74 years old, I did not even know that, and you move better than me, and I'm only 38.
I wish.
But it
the
is.
The body keeps the score.
Yes. But one thing about it, people, I want you to understand, breaking chains to addiction starts with you. You can do this thing. Listen, Say it again, Mr. What you said about the drugs. First the man takes the drugs.
First the man takes the drug, then the drug takes the man.
So then that's when you give your power up. And that's when addiction becomes real. Because you take the drug and you think you're doing it for a while. Oh yeah, I got this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Then it starts throwing you off your regular routines and you start doing extra stuff along with taking the drug, thinking that you're controlling the drug, but now the drug controls you. That's why I always say I believe that addiction is nothing but a world, because everybody's recovery is different. So I know if I take the power from myself and I put it back into this big can or this bottle of alcohol, I've given my power up. God said he give you free will. That free will is your power to do as you please. But when you make that decision can be your downfall or your uprising.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I'm just going to say, God does give us the power to be co-create. We had the power to create. And as you said, we can create something wonderful or we can create something that's devastating. But it's free will, and we do have that ability.
So, man, listen, if you're going through anything right now and you need somebody to talk to, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore also knows my sponsor, and they just in the same age range. So, like, this is what Leonard Smith, the founder of the Sober Living Project, does. We break down chains to addiction. I surround myself around nothing but positive people. Because guess what? Like I told y'all before, I got all these jobs and did all this so that I can stay positive and keep negativity out. I don't hang around people that got negativity on them. If I can't learn it and learn something positive and grow from you, it's no love lost, much respect, all love. But it's nothing that we can do because I done already been there, and that almost took my life, took the lives of my children. This right here, what I'm doing with this scene right here, I'm moving up and I'm helping more people. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, Jake. Thank you, Jake.